and welcome. Tonight, the world bids farewell to Pope Francis in Rome after a funeral ceremony and procession attended by hundreds of thousands of people and many world leaders. Vice President Kashim Shettima called for stronger international collaboration to advance Nigeria's human capital development strategy. Members of the River State Caucus of the National Assembly expressed support for President Bola Tinubu to seek re-election come 2027. And at least 5 people have been killed and 700 others injured in a massive explosion at one of Iran's key ports.
And on business, Nigeria's central bank raises more than 1 trillion naira in Omo auction following 102% oversubscription by investors.
And on sports news tonight, Crystal Palace sweep past Aston Villa at the Wembley to reach the English FA Cup final for the first time in 9 years.
At the Vatican, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, who presided over the ceremony, described the Pope as a man of peace and compassion who wanted to build bridges and not walls. The funeral was attended by thousands of people from around the world, including prominent leaders.
This was considered one of the largest services held at St. Peter's Square in St. Peter's Basilica in a long time. It was presided over by Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, the 91-year-old Dean of the College of Cardinals. And witnessed by tens of thousands of people from all over the world, the Vatican security estimates that there were at least 400,000 people, 50,000 of them inside St. Peter's Square itself, including the Argentinian President, Javier Milei, US President Donald Trump, and the First Lady Melania, the French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and Prince William, who represented King Charles III, and even the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Rituals accorded to a service of this caliber were observed. In his homily, Cardinal Battista Re says Pope Francis reached people's hearts in a direct and immediate way, and that the guiding thread of his mission was the conviction that the church is home for all, a home, he says, with its doors always open.
Grazie et miserationis tue mysteris.
Then came the liturgy of the Eucharist, a celebration of the Last Supper, where Jesus broke bread and shared a cup of wine with his disciples, symbolizing his flesh and his blood. It is usually the center of all Roman Catholic masses.
So what we're seeing now is the distribution of communion, the consecrated host, the bread, which is the body of Christ, being distributed to all the people in the square. And the choir is singing.
The congregation then offered the sign of peace by shaking each other's hands, after which began the final commendation and farewell.
Explain to us where we are now in the service and what we're seeing.
So the celebrant has wished everybody peace.
Cardinal Giovanni commended the Pope's soul to God and asked for consolation for the Roman Catholic Church. The funeral mass ends, and Pope Francis' coffin is carried back into St. Peter's Basilica to begin the procession through the streets to its final resting place in Santa Maria Maggiore, a favorite spot for the late Pope.
Back home, the Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for stronger international collaboration to advance Nigeria's Human Capital Development 2.0 strategy. He made the call when he addressed a high-level roundtable virtually during the 2025 World Bank IMF Spring meeting in Washington. He reaffirmed the commitment of the administration of President Bola Tinubu to position human potential at the heart of national development.
The 6 indicators from health, education and labor force selected as quick wins under the HCD 2.0 strategy positions us to make informed policy decisions and measure our progress against tangible benchmarks. Whether in utilizing the platform of the National Economic Council and the HCD Steering Committee to bring together key stakeholders or in insisting on data-driven governance, we will continue to hold ourselves accountable and press forward toward our bold goal to elevate Nigeria among the top 80 countries in Human Capital Index rankings. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we are here. We need the World Bank and other partners to continue to walk the journey with us. We have enormous tasks ahead. We need provisions such as state-by-state human capital index data so that our interventions can be evidence-based and targeted. This will certainly help us design and deploy the right program that will yield the greatest impact, especially in areas such as early childhood development, education transition rates and basic healthcare access, and assist in building an accountability framework that rewards performance and creates the right incentives for sustainable progress.
To politics now. Members of the River State Caucus of the National Assembly have expressed support for President Bola Tinubu to seek re-election in 2027. The lawmakers, who are all members of the Peoples Democratic Party, made this known during a press briefing in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Reading a communique on behalf of the group, their leader and senator representing Rivers Southeast, Mr. Ravinada Rumbiki, asked other candidates to queue behind the president.
As members of the National Assembly from River State, we declare unequivocally our unconditional resolve to work again for the re-election of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu come 2027. As legislators who are closest to our people, we shall begin the model of all mobilizations of our people to repeat in a greater measure what we did in 2023 in order to re-elect President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFRO, come 2027. Finally, we call on all Nigerians to support the consolidation of Renew Hope agenda as the surest panacea for the prosperity and progress of Nigeria. In this connection, we appeal to would-be presidential candidates, especially those with desperate and never-ending presidential ambition, to jettison such ambition and rally around our dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFRO, in 2027.
Meanwhile, in Delta State, political leaders from the Peoples Democratic Party PDP in Warri South local government area have justified their decision to move with Governor Sharif Owerri into the All Progressives Congress APC, citing ongoing internal conflict. During a meeting in Warri, many of the defectors who have been loyal members of the PDP since 1999 described the decision as necessary, emphasizing that the prolonged unresolved issues within the party left them with no other choice than to seek a viable alternative.
Today, PDP has been hijacked. And at the national level, which majority of us here are aware of, there are a lot of irreconcilable crises at the national level. If they were just mere crises, it would have been better. There are a lot of litigations.
We have shown in the past that we are a solid family. We have shown in the past we are serious-minded politicians. We have shown in the past that for us, no shaking. Those people who have been settled to sabotage the party are working hard to ensure that peace does not return to PDP.
From politics to security matters now, the federal government and Borno State governor have shared ideas on how to end insecurity after a resurgence of attacks in parts of Borno State. In an operational visit, the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, accompanied by the Chief of Defense Staff and top military brass, say the federal government is open to ideas that will help to end insurgency and insecurity across the country.
The delegation of the federal government on a visit to Borno State following the resurgence of Boko Haram attacks in some parts of the state. The state governor, Professor Babagana Zulum, members of the State Executive Council and senior military officers welcomed the federal government delegation to Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. The delegation, led by the governor, heads to the government house for briefings. After an appraisal of military performance in restoring relative peace and security to the state, Governor Zulum highlights the present security situation in Borno State.
Some of the problems that we are facing in Borno State, amongst others, are lack of limited manpower covering to trial tombs, malarias, and indeed our porous borders. Manpower is very essential. While I'm very much aware of the constraints of the Nigerian army, because right now we are everywhere. We are in the northwestern Nigeria, north central, the northeast, as well as southern Nigeria. I'm aware of your limitations, but still considering the problem that we're having in the northeastern region, I believe the Nigerian army will look into the possibility of sending more trained manpower to northeastern Nigeria.
The federal government delegation then addressed the governor and his team.
We are here this morning, or this afternoon, Your Excellency, to engage our team here to find out what other requirements, additional requirements, so as to stop the new trend that we have been seeing insecurity in Borno State and the Northeast. Ours is to engage them, find out what are the requirements in both men and equipment. And the President has authorized us to do this and make sure that we provide them with all the necessary men and equipment that they need.
Professor Zulum responds to the minister with some recommendations.
So there is a need for us to fortify the security situation in the Sahel with a view to ending the crisis in the entire nation. So we need manpower. Then in terms of military operations has to be continued. It should be a continuous exercise. What we are facing now is that we do military exercise after some period, we disengage. This issue of Boko Haram members will again come and take over all those areas that were hitherto regained.
The next stop is the headquarters, Northeast Joint Task Force, Operation Hadenkei, where they are received by a guard of honor. The visit goes into a closed-door session with the military high command, lasting for about 2 hours. After the meeting, the entourage then leaves for Abuja.
In part two, after the break, the head of Transparency International Nigeria, Anwar Rafsanjani, backs the call for the audit of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. That's in a moment. Join us again. Expressed support for President Bola Tinubu to seek re-election come 2027. The International Nigeria, Mr. Anwar Rafsanjani, is backing the call for the audit of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. Speaking to our correspondent, Sarah Chimugu, during the spring meetings in Washington, D.C., he explained that the process will give room for transparency and accountability in the organization in order to ensure proceeds from the nation's oil sector serve the people better.
I think this is a welcome development to have audit of the NNPC. However, what we want a regular audit. We don't want one-off audit. We want a regular audit, and this audit should not only be financial audit, should be physical audit, process audit, and of course the financial audit. This will give you a comprehensive view on the state of the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, and also looking at some of the gaps that we have and be able to come up with a recommendation. The audit should be able to come up with a recommendation on how to revamp the oil sector in Nigeria. Right now, there's so much concern, despite the fact that we have petroleum industry law, we have the EITI. It appears to me that the petroleum industry sector is still suffering from lack of efficiency, lack of professionalism, lack of even accountability, and there's no way we can continue in this way if we really want to liberate the Nigerian economy, and we want the oil and gas sector to be productive to the Nigerian people and useful to Nigerian people.
Legal practitioners are duty-bound to lead and embrace innovation while safeguarding the integrity of the justice system. The president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, pointed this out at the Nigerian Bar Association section on legal practice taking place in Jos, Plateau State. The conference was an avenue to reevaluate the practice of their profession in the face of a changing legal landscape.
Thank you so much.
The annual section on legal practice conference of the Nigerian Bar Association, which plays a crucial role in promoting the interests of legal practitioners in Nigeria, has commenced in Jos, Plateau State. Top legal luminaries, including serving and retired justices, senior legal practitioners, and upcoming lawyers, are rubbing minds on the importance of maintaining high ethical standards in legal practice, as outlined in the Rules of Professional Conduct for Legal Practitioners. Setting the tone for the conference, the Chairman, Conference Planning Committee, called on participants to embrace and navigate the challenges in a changing legal environment.
In this day and age where technology has taken the drive, we can't afford to be left behind. We must take every step possible to align ourselves and take advantage of what is trending, what is the language of technology and legal practice that can make us competitive in Nigeria and indeed the world over.
The President, Nigerian Bar Association, Afam Osigwe, in his message, restated the importance of the conference to interrogate challenges, especially in litigation and elongation in judgment delivery, which needs to be addressed.
We have today been rewarded by court systems that have refused to allow technology to be deployed to reduce the length of time it takes for cases to move to our courts. We have today invited to the front border right to be conferred, or the privilege to be conferred with the right of
rather than the quality of these cases. And I hope that in having this conversation, we'll be able to tell ourselves the whole truth.
The Plateau State government, through the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, spells out steps taken by the government in enhancing justice administration.
In view of the constitutional amendment, we have a bill in the works for the establishment of a state correctional service, sequel to which we have since acquired the land for that purpose. Plateau State is only perhaps second to any state that is ready to establish a state-owned correctional service.
Several sessions on law practice, separation of powers and judicial independence, litigation, incorporating technology in legal practice, and the uncommon challenges facing the Nigerian child were held at the conference.
The federal government is giving the tourism sector its rightful place to enable it contribute to the revenue base of the country. The Minister of Art, Culture and the Creative Economy, Hanatu Musawa, who is visiting Ekiti State, told journalists this at the Ikogosi Warm Spring Resort. She said her ministry is also working with the private sector to ensure that tourist sites are utilized to its greatest potential for the benefits of the country.
For most countries, tourism sites account for a huge revenue base, and so attention is usually given to the sector. And that's what the tourism minister is hoping to achieve in Nigeria as she visits Ekiti State. She is deliberate in ensuring that there are intentions that will boost the tourism sector. The minister also says that the federal government is ready to collaborate with the private sector to transform the industry and give practitioners a chance to make clear impact in the sector.
It's really about partnership and collaborations and conversations with other MDAs to ensure that everybody pulls his weight to deliver that destination. And this is what I plan to intentionally do with Ikogosi. Nobody has to go out of Nigeria. If you want to go for a retreat, if you want to experience the beauty of nature, and I think that is what is the magic mystique about Ikogosi. That attention to detail that we have seen has met a sort of rallying point with nature. And that nature, this beauty that you see here is something that we really want to deliver for domestic tourism, for international tourism.
She also expresses satisfaction with the scenes visited, pointing out there is a lot to gain if attention is given to improving the tourism sector in Nigeria.
In order for us to be able to deliver places, destinations such as Ikogosi as a holistic tourist destination, not only for domestic tourism, but what I hope will be for global tourism as well, is to ensure that we put up that infrastructure. Now, when you talk about infrastructure, access has got to be one of the main discussions. Nobody has to go out of Nigeria. If you want to go for a retreat, if you want to experience the beauty of nature, and I think that is what is the magic mystique about Ikogosi. That attention to detail that we have seen has met a sort of rallying point with nature. And that nature, this beauty that you see here is something that we really want to deliver for domestic tourism, for international tourism.
Ikogosi Warm Springs is one of the most visited and charming tourism sites in Nigeria. And for the minister, keeping high standards here will attract more visitors, translating into more revenue for the government.
The Oyo State Police Command has discovered the trafficking ring in Ibadan, the state capital. More than 80 people, mostly young adults, were rescued from the house in Ibadan where they had been kept for an undisclosed amount of time. The police say the victims, who are from the Democratic Republic of Congo, were lured to Nigeria under the guise of providing jobs for them.
The early hours of today, being Saturday the 26th of April 2025, based on credible information received by our team of intelligence experts, that certain numbers of individuals had occupied a particular area under Kajorepo, Akinyele local government, and that the individuals seemed to be migrants who entered into the country illegally, and from the way things were, they appeared to have no substantive means of livelihood. And upon this, a team of investigators and, of course, intelligence assets visited the area, and they were able to gather about 84 of them. We have here 57 male, 26 female, and, of course, 1 infant. And so also we recovered certain items, laptops, shoes, cards, modems with them. At this point, investigation is ongoing to ascertain how they got into the country.
I'm here in Nigeria since 2 months ago. I've been called by one of my friends, one of my brother. His name is Ikeba Jonathan. He told me that do come in Nigeria, there is a good enterprise that is engaging people so that you can be engaged. As I was a big fan of Nigeria, I asked him what to do. He suggests me that you have to send your file online. I sent the file. After 2 weeks, I was called by one madam called Madam Rose, but her real name is Fabienne. So it's a group of crooks people. No, do come in Nigeria, you have been taken, your file has been taken. I got my passport, I traveled. I came here in Nigeria. When I came, they kept me in a hotel. They kept me there, and they started calling my family so that they can send money, and that money would save me for the apartment, for the body care, at the immigration paper. My family sent something like $2,000.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's central bank raises more than 1 trillion naira at its open market operations bills auctions following 102% oversubscription by investors. That's on Business News. Please stay with us. Welcome back. 231 Nigerians said to be involved in cybercrime in Ghana have been repatriated to the country through the efforts of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, the Office of the First Lady of Nigeria, NAPTIP, and the Ghanaian government. The group were debriefed and profiled at the NAPTIP office in Ikeja, Lagos, while stipends and SIM cards have been given to them. Our correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, has this report.
They've traveled a long way from Ghana on 6 buses, one of them provided by the wife of the president, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu. And their journey from Ghana ends here, at the Ikeja office of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. There are 231 Nigerians, but 27 of them, considered suspected traffickers, are separated from the rest.
Some of the places they are telling you to go.
The NITCOM chairman speaks to the others, reminding them that they are survivors who have nothing to be ashamed of.
I know you've gone through a very tough time. You were all trafficked to Ghana, right? In search of what you didn't expect you were going to do, right? So don't be ashamed of yourselves. Look up. You'll be better persons by the grace of God. We're going to give you, of course, water, and a lot more from NAPTIP. And also, you're going to get stipends, a little money in your pocket, very small, to take you back home. Courtesy of Weber Bank.
Staff Officer of Ghana's Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, the equivalent of the EFCC Nigeria, Dominic Mensah, who traveled with the repatriates, explains how Nigerian victims ended up in this condition.
On the 28th March, we received a complaint from an informant alleging that a group of people suspected to be Nigerians have brought in victims to their apartments, and that they are using them to engage in prohibited cyber activities. By 3:30 a.m., we were at the estate with a group of men, from the National Security and then the Ghana Police Service. So we were able to conduct a search into all the 26 houses that we identified. And after that, we arrested. By that time, we didn't know who was a victim and who was a suspect. So we arrested close to 233 individuals.
The NAPTIP zonal commander also explains what will happen to the repatriates after now.
For NAPTIP, after profiling them, we ensure that we take them through our integration and repatriation processes. But we send them their name to our headquarters. And that's why we told them they should drop their real names and correct phone number, so that in collaboration with their various state governments, the NAPTIP as an agency will be able to do the that is their representation partner.
A couple of victims recount their experience in Ghana.
I went for a visit. I went to see my guy, my boyfriend. So the day they came to pack us, they came to the estate. So that day they packed everybody in the estate, including my guy.
They called me for company work. So they said that their company work there, so they need people there. So that was how I traveled to Ghana.
According to the NIDCOM chairman, the victims are from states across Nigeria, many of them from Edo State. She calls on governors to reach out to NAPTIP to facilitate the movement of their indigents back home. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
Anyone found disposing waste indiscriminately in Lagos State will be prosecuted. The Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, disclosed this at a ministerial briefing recently. He says many collector drains and primary channels are at various levels of completion, while others are going through what he calls a procurement process.
Keeping Lagos clean is a major task for the state government, one that keeps the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources on its toes on a daily basis, just to ensure that the city is conducive for living and business can thrive in the state. The last 1 year has been an eventful one for the ministry by removing structures and shanties on drainage's path and implementing policies suitable for Lagos in order to prevent climate change disasters. After 12 months of tedious work, the commissioner in charge, Mr. Tokunbo Wahab, has the opportunity to reel out the progress made, particularly in the area of flood prevention, waste management, and clearing the air about pollution.
The emergency flood abatement gang cleaned up a total of 445 kilometers during the year 2023 to 2025. In the year 2023, a total of 150 kilometers was cleared and cleaned, consisting of various dark spots and drainage channels in order to prevent flooding. It's not enough for us to say we want a mega city. We must also be able to say we want a livable city. And that means each and every one of us must be responsible to do the right thing. You take a waste from your house, a sensible, reasonable, normal person, and you take the waste off your own house in a nylon. You take it to the median to go and drop. And who does that? And now what we've done differently is, once we arrest you, we prosecute you, you do community service, we embarrass you with media, and we're not going to stop.
While the government makes efforts to deliver the Adinyo 2 waterworks in the Ijushaga area of the state, the commission also touched on the issue of borehole water installation.
If in the course of the past few years we've not been able to produce water to go around Lagos, our people have resorted to an alternative to produce water for themselves and their families. Until we're able to give them sufficient water that can go around when Adinyo 2 picks up, and then we've refurbished Iju properly, Adinyo 1 is full steam, chassis full steam, and the other micro and mini water works statewide. And we can now start saying to people, we want to enforce and regulate the use of boreholes. It's not even about them. It's about the consequences for the environment and the aquifer. If we don't start looking at that now, it's the next biggest challenge we may face as a state. Don't forget we are a coastal state. As a coastal state, we are below the sea level. Boreholes will add to our problems if we don't start to regulate. But the question now is, when can we regulate? I believe we will regulate when our own Nigerian 2 and others come full steam, hopefully within the next 24 months.
The Lagos state government says it's working towards achieving a mega city with a sustainable waste processing, modernized landfill management, cleaner waterways, and structured sanitation systems that will keep the Lagos metropolis safe for citizens.
A colorful, vibrant, and deeply spiritual celebration in Baramato Kingdom Delta State as an Asian festival brings together dignitaries, traditional rulers, and culture lovers from all over the country. Beyond the pomp and ceremony, the festival carried powerful messages of peace, forgiveness, hope, and unity.
Baramato Kingdom, in the heart of Delta State, came alive as it hosts the grand finale of the 2025 Amasekumo Festival, one of the oldest traditional celebrations of the Baramato people, passed down faithfully through generations, which attracts indigenes and dignitaries from across the country. The main event kicks off at the Oporoza Pavilion as traditional rulers from across the Niger Delta arrive, led by His Majesty Oboro Barau II, the Pere of Baramato Kingdom. The event features an array of performances, excitement soars as the revered Amasekumo masquerade, a symbolic representation of ancestral spirits, makes a dramatic entrance into the arena. The festival has been hailed for sustaining cultural identity, promoting reconciliation, and building bridges of peace across ethnic divides.
The Amasekumo Festival of the Baramato Kingdom is now a typical representation of the culture and tradition of the people of this very great kingdom. It protects not only the kingdom, it protects the whole of Delta State, the whole of the land, and it serves Nigeria to the outside world.
Other notable Ijaw sons also speak on this significance.
It's a festival that clears the lands of all people, anything to destroy the land. This festival, no matter what it is, to remove them, any input from the land. It cleanses the land, it restores the land to its glory.
For the people, Amasekumo, which translates to good living, is more than a tradition. It embodies peace, unity, prosperity, and protection for the Baramato communities.
The Zamfara state government has announced that over 1.5 million children under the age of 5 have received seasonal malaria medication as part of efforts to curb the spread of the disease across the state. The Commissioner for Health, who was represented at an event, disclosed this during a media briefing held in Gusau to commemorate the 2025 World Malaria Day. She said the initiative to ensure that every household in Zamfara has access to comprehensive malaria protection. Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Willie Bong has details.
Thank you, Melinda. And the central bank says it has raised about 1 trillion naira at its open market operations OMO auction held on Friday following an oversubscription of 102%. This comes as investors seek to benefit from high-yield government instruments amid rising inflation and expanding money supply. According to the CBN, the 319-day OMO bill was the most attractive at the auction as it got 1.06 trillion naira in subscriptions, which is more than 4 times the 250 billion naira offer, while the 298 bill received 329.54 billion naira in bids against the same 250 billion naira offer by the CBN. The outcome of the OMO auction confirms the Apex Bank's aggressive monetary tightening approach aimed at reducing excess liquidity and controlling inflation. Meanwhile, the Debt Management Office, DMO, says it seeks to raise 350 billion naira from the sale of federal government bonds at the upcoming auction on April the 28th. According to the Debt Office, the dual tranche bond offers will be auctioned at 1,000 naira per unit, subject to a minimum subscription of 50 million naira with settlement date by April the 30th. As Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, has said that the financial market regulator will redouble its efforts to sustain the gains of recent reforms and achieve a single-digit inflation rate to protect the purchasing power of households. He made this known while speaking alongside the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, at the closing press briefing on the country's participation in the just-concluded spring meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in Washington, D.C. The CBN governor explains that though the reforms are not easy, they're delivering results and have helped the country move from vulnerability towards one of growing strength while enhancing confidence among international investors. Now is the 6th consecutive week of decline for the country's foreign exchange reserves as it fell further by $66 million week on week to $37.81 billion as of April the 24th, according to the latest data from the central bank. Financial analysts attribute the continued decrease in external buffers to the sustained intervention by the CBN after the regulator sold about $140 million to authorized banks this week. Meanwhile, currency traders say although demand pressures in the forex market appear to have eased, they expect the CBN's intervention to continue due to upside risks caused by the ongoing global trade uncertainties, which are likely to continue dampening capital inflows in the near term. Now we head now to the equities market, which returned to positive territory this week, recording gains in 3 out of 4 trading sessions as investors reacted positively to a flurry of corporate earnings results. The market's benchmark index jumped by 1.46% to close at 105,752 points, while the total value of listed equities soared by 1.47% to 66.46 trillion naira, largely due to gains from the banking, consumer goods, and insurance sectors on the NGX. Now, the share price of international breweries was top among 64 gainers as it appreciated by 40%. VFD Group was #1 in the midst of 26 losers after its share price fell by 82.19%. The trio of Fidelity Bank, Access Holdings, and GTCO were the major contributors to more than 1.85 billion higher volume of shares traded in over 51,000 deals this week. Now at the NASD market, as the over-the-counter securities market, its performance ended the week in the red as the index dropped by 0.53% week to date with a lower market cap of 1.91 trillion naira. The decline comes on the back of losses from some high-value securities on the market, which are Friesland Campina Wamco, Double One PLC, and UBN Property. No gainers were recorded. Now, a higher total volume of 3.9 billion securities were traded, worth over 49.78 billion naira in 85 deals within the week, and this was mostly driven by Infrastructure Credit Company. And that's a wrap on business. It's back to Melinda for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. Members of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC, have re-elected Mr. Festus Osifo as their president for a second term. The election, which was supervised by officials from the Ministry of Labor and Employment in Abuja, saw Mr. Osifo and 18 other executives returned on the post. The TUC president has vowed to deepen collaboration with relevant authorities and allies to push for better wages for workers as his team begin a fresh 4-year term.
We will work with the respective bar units. We will work with the respective state councils. We will work with the Women Commission to ensure that the plight of Nigerian workers will not be going concerned. To ensure that the welfare of the Nigerian workers will not sacrosanct. To ensure that we deepen the issue of remuneration, the issue of welfare much more than we have ever done before. You have elected men of timber and caliber. You have elected astute unionists. You have elected experienced unionists. I wish to thank you for the belief that you have once again reposed in us. And we wish to make this singular promise that we will never let you down.
Welcome to Sports News on the News at 10. The governor of Anambra State, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, has reaffirmed commitment to sports development as he receives the torch of unity for the upcoming National Sports Festival, which will be held in Ogun State from May the 16th to the 30th. Professor Soludo, who is represented by his Deputy Chief of Staff, Chinedu Nwoye, said that sports is a catalyst for youth engagement, national cohesion, and economic growth. The torch of unity will move to Imo State on Monday.
Sports is something that brings everybody together. Sports cuts across the religion and every other thing. Anything sports is for unity. So the Gateway Games will bring more unity to Nigeria. The Gateway Games will empower our youth.
We've gone to the North Central, North East, Northwest, and now we are now in the South. We started with Enugu. We were in Ebonyi yesterday, and we are here today, and on Monday we'll be in Imo.
Football and Crystal Palace have reached the English FA Cup final for the first time in 9 years as the Samaila Stars double and a rocket from Ebere Chieze sealed a 3-0 win against Aston Villa at the Wembley. Crystal Palace took the lead in the semi-final through Eze's long-range blast before Soft netted twice in the second half. Now, Crystal Palace will face Nottingham Forest or Manchester City in the final on May the 17th. The Eagles have never won the FA Cup, losing their 2 final appearances against Manchester United in 1990 and 2016. For Aston Villa, it means their wait to lift the FA Cup goes on. It's been about 68 years since they last did so. Meanwhile, in the English Premier League, some results for you. Chelsea have boosted their bid to qualify for the Champions League as Nicholas Jackson ended his 13-game goal drought to seal a crucial 1-0 win against Everton at Stamford Bridge. Ipswich Town's relegation was confirmed as Newcastle strengthened their push for Champions League final football with a 3-0 victory at St James Park. Carlos Baliba's stunning effort clinched 3 points for Brighton in a captivating 5-goal thriller at the Amex Stadium. And Ryan scored a dramatic late winner as Fulham came back from behind to beat relegated Southampton at St Mary's Stadium, while Matthias inspired the Wolves to victory against relegated Leicester City. And that's it on sports news. Back to Melinda with news from the foreign scene on the News at 10.
Many thanks, Olumide. At least 5 people have been killed and 700 others injured in a massive explosion in Iran this morning. State media report says the suspected chemical blast took place at the country's largest commercial port near the southern city of Bandar Abbas. The explosion blew out windows and roofs of nearby buildings and destroyed cars. Residents reported feeling the impact of the blast up to 31 miles away. Online videos show a fire growing before the explosion, with people running and others lying and wounded on the floor, surrounded by smoking debris. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and U.S. President Donald Trump have met at the Vatican, their first face-to-face encounter since the February's Oval Office showdown. The pair were pictured locked in deep discussion minutes before the late Pontiff's funeral was due to start. The White House described the 15-minute meeting in St. Peter's Basilica as very productive, and Mr. Zelensky later called it symbolic, with the potential to become historic. After leaving Rome later in the day, Mr. Trump took a swipe at the Russian President Vladimir Putin, questioning his willingness to end the war after Moscow's strike on Kiev earlier this week. And the main news again. The world today bade farewell to Pope Francis in Rome after a funeral ceremony and procession attended by hundreds of thousands of people and many world leaders. That's the news at 10 tonight. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On behalf of the team, good night.